Welcome to OAA Now, your home for Oakland Activities Association news and information. Here's your host, Sammy Taramina.
Welcome to OAA Now. I'm Sammy Taramina, blogger of the Dragon's Den, blogger of Inside the OAA, and one of the hosts between Taraminas and ONTV. We are now at District Week for boys basketball and also Regional Week for girls basketball. In the districts and the girls, only two OAA teams remain left. That is Southfield Lathrop and Rochester Stony Creek. Those two teams, of course, they got tough matchups in the regional semifinals coming up, and that's going to be a tough matchup for both teams. We'll go over that in the second segment. We're going to go first with the boys basketball district preview. Of course, I wrote in the blog about the what I thought about each matchup and what type of matchup each team's going to have heading into the matchup coming up. A lot of interesting matchups when you look at this. Ranging from, of course, you got Class B for Ferndale, they're Adam, Detroit Collegiate Prep. Also, you got Hazel Park's at Warren, Woods Tower. And also you got West Bloomfield at Wall Lake Central. So a lot of teams, you know what I mean? We're going to go over some very unique names that not a lot of people have mentioned when you look at the situation of each team. But we're going to preview each district heading into the tournament, Now, I read an interesting blog, of course, read by Tom Markowski. He said about Clarkston was that Clarkston is projected by him to win a state title. I'm not sold on that remark at all with Clarkston because you still got to go through the district playoffs. Of course, you got possibly the collision with Macomb Dakota, and also you got Detroit UAD Jesuit who's still in there. That could give problems for Clarkston, you know what I mean? So I wouldn't give the title to Clarkston by any means necessary. But we're going to go with each district first. The first district we're going to talk about is the district number 26 at Wall Lake Central. So this is a top district, you know what I mean? This is a 4-team district, you know what I mean? 4 teams have a great shot at winning this district. Wall Lake North has been playing much better. Lakeland, they're known for their defense. When you look at West Bloomfield, what type of situation they're in, they got a really nice draw. They got to play either Wall Lake Northern or Wall Lake Central. I'd like to be Wall Lake Central, and that will make an interesting matchup between them and Antoine Nuage, who last year played at West Bloomfield, and now he plays at Wall Lake Central. He's been a huge factor this year for that team. The early favorite, I would say, is Wall Lake Western because the Warriors, they won the Kensington Lakes Conference. They whooped Plymouth pretty bad. They also have a win over Wall Lake Central. Of course, they beat them at Wall Lake Western. Western's got a very tough road, I think, personally. They got to play Orchard Lake St. Mary's first. That's not going to be an easy game right there. Orchard Lake St. Mary's had a really nice year. They shocked Birmingham Brother Rice. They won the Catholic League. They didn't win the Catholic. Sorry, they were in the Catholic League finals at Callahan Hall before losing to UAD Jesuit. We'll go over UAD Jesuit in a minute, but I think those 4 teams are going to have it's going to be one of those 4 teams that's going to probably move on to Fenton. I think they got a great shot at maybe possibly going to the quarterfinals, but I still like, in this league, in this matchup, with Wall Lake Western and Orchard Lake St. Mary's playing early, it's an interesting matchup. It's a dynamic matchup of Wall Lake Western's got a very experienced team. Orchard Lake St. Mary's, they're always a tough out in March. George Port's done a really nice job with the Eaglets. And then, of course, I do like Western in that game because of experience over St. Mary's. I just think, being close to home, being close, what Wall Lake Western is, I think it's going to be a very interesting matchup right there. And then West Bloomfield, Wall Lake Central, of course. Wall Lake Central's got home court in this matchup. Antoine Nuage. But I just got a feeling that West Bloomfield this year, they're a good team. They won. There's a reason why they're the Code Blue champions. They have Tristan Jackson, Michael King. Zach Allred. This is a good team that Jeremy Dennett's bringing over there. I just think West Bloomfield, I think they're going to pull off the big win over there, over Wall Lake Central, and move on to the district final, where I think they're going to beat Wall Lake Western. I really think West Bloomfield's a very solid team. when you look at it here, I mean, it'll be a heck of a match. It's going to be a really close game. At the end of the day, I like West Bloomfield winning that district. It's a tough district. It can go either way. Would not surprise me if Walled Lake Western wins it, Walled Lake Central wins it, or Orchard Lake St. Mary's wins it. But it is what it is. I still like West Bloomfield to move on to that regional up in Fenton because of one Tristan Jackson. And then next district we're going to talk about here is in district number 23. It's at Warren Woods Tower. As I said earlier, of course, Hazel Park is in this district. They got a tough matchup with Warren D. LaSalle coming up. It's going to, and then of course, this is a pretty bad district when you look at the when I look at this district, I analyzed it, and I just think it's a bad district. Warren D. LaSalle looks like they're the overwhelming favorite. They do have a win over West Bloomfield early in the regular season. But you look at Sterling Heights, Warren Cousino. Cousino was not good at all. Sterling Heights is okay. They're not great. Of course, Warren D. LaSalle plays in that very tough Catholic League. Warren Woods Tower is okay, but they're not great at all. So when I look at this district, I think whoever wins the Hazel Park Warren D. LaSalle matchup, I think is going to win the district. It's looking more and more likely it's going to be Warren D. LaSalle because they got the talent there. They got the experience. But I just think right now, the way that Warren D. LaSalle is playing right now, I just think that in the end of the day, I just think it's going to be too much Warren D. LaSalle winning that district, and they're going to move on to that. Going to move on in that district. Next district's District 21. Interesting district here. You got Farmington in here. You got Southfields in here. Of course, you got mighty powerful. You got two good teams in Detroit Renaissance and UAD Jesuit is also in here. Of course, the reason I look at this district as Detroit Renaissance is both Detroit Renaissance and UAD Jesuit is very talented and features some transfers. But UAD Jesuit, of course, having Kaneas Winston, a very good player, and you have the two Nigerians who was the big talk of the town in Oakland County last summer. When you look at them with their situation at West Bloomfield, the Billy Thomas fiasco over there, it created much of an issue over there. And of course, Detroit Renaissance, they've had a really good season as well. But also, you cannot underestimate Southfield, the Blue Jays, led by Isaiah Green. Very good player. Farmington, of course, they won the gold this year. So we'll see what happens with Farmington and Southfield. They play each other on Monday. I think it's a good matchup. I think it's a good matchup here. I still think Southfield's better than Farmington right now because of Isaiah Green. I think he's going to be the difference maker in that game. I also think the loss of Amari Hardy's going to hurt Southfield as well. When you look at that situation, I just think right now that whoever wins, I think the best matchup in this district is going to be on Wednesday when Detroit Renaissance takes on UAD Jesuit. UAD Jesuit, of course, won the Catholic League this year. They completely slaughtered the league. This is a team that last year lost in the state semifinals to Bloomfield Hills. Of course, Bloomfield Hills last year, of course, they had Deontay Mayton, Ahmad Cartwright, and Kylie Gracie. Of course, he did not play in that game, but also and they had a very good coach named Dwayne Graves. So I just think personally, when you look at the favorite in this district, it's obviously going to be UAD Jesuit, but you cannot count out Detroit Renaissance or Southfield one bit. I just think right now that it's going to be tough for anybody to beat UAD Jesuit. I think Detroit Renaissance may have the best chance to do that, but in the end of the day, I just think UAD Jesuit, the way that they're playing right now, they can be beat. Remember, they lost earlier in the year to Birmingham Brother Rice on the road. So I think right now, UAD Jesuit, if they get upset, it would be a huge shock to the tournament. But in the end of the day, I just think UAD Jesuit's going to move on and win this district over in the district final. I think Southfield's going to be the team that's going to play them. And I think that UD Jesuit was going to beat Southfield pretty handily in that district. Next district we're going to talk about is District 24. It's at Royal Oak. This is where a lot of OAA teams here. Got Royal Oak taking on Lathrop, Berkeley Oak Park, and then you got and then of course that winner of Royal Oak and Lathrop takes on Groves. Oak Park's been a team that's really had a really I would say, a turbulent season. You know what I mean? Like Oak Park here, they lose Brian Tipton, of course, due to the academic cheating scandal. You lose Kevon Fuller, of course, he's now at Detroit purging. And now you got and they've came off two tough losses. They lost to Lake Orion at home, and then they lost to Pontiac, the next day. So I don't know where the mindset of Oak Park is right now. By the looks of it, a lot of people are saying this is a team that's in real trouble right now. And I don't know if this team is in a lot. I mean, like, they should be fine in this district, but you also got to watch out for Southfield Lathrop. This is a Lathrop team I think is going to give a lot of fits to they have a very good rebounder heading to Toledo next year in Fred John, who's a very good player. Royal Oak, Berkeley, of course, they had Jonathan Radner, who was a very good player. So I think Berkeley and Oak Park, it's going to be an interesting game. I still think Oak Park wins that game, but I think Radner's going to probably get 30 points in that game. I like Lathrop knock off Royal Oak. Royal Oaks had a really nice year. They upset Oxford earlier in the year. That was a stunner right there, to say the least. And then, of course, the Royal Oak Lathrop plays Groves. And, I look at Groves. This is a team that's had a really tough year in the blue. If it's Lathrop, I like Lathrop. If it's Royal Oak, I think Groves wins this. But I think in the end, Chargers are going to move on and play Oak Park. At the end of the day, I just think Oak Park right now, the way that they're playing right now, they're struggling. Maybe they need this type of tournament, maybe this one-and-done thing. Because there's a lot of it's a senior lane team over at Oak Park. You got Rodney Scales, a senior, coming back from Wisconsin. You have Mario Garrett, who's a good player. You also got Devin Mills, who's had an on and off season. You've also got, any of that, I think Oak Park's talent is going to carry them in that district, in that tournament. Of course, next district we're going to talk about is District 25. It's at North Farmington. You got Seaholm taking on Harrison. That winner plays North Farmington. And you got Birmingham Brother Rice taking on Bloomfield Hills. In that matchup, I just think it's going to be an interesting matchup. If this is not Birmingham Brother Rice against North Farmington, I'd be really disappointed, to say the least, because when you look at that district right there, Brother Rice has had a heck of a year. They're a senior lane team. They played in a tough league, Cats League. They beat UD Jesuit. And then here's North Farmington, the team, even though they're not going to have Billy Thomas, who's out for the tournament in it, and I don't think it's not right at all. But you still have Anthony Kwanzaa, Jerome Rogers, Caleb Hogans and Jacob Joubert. I just think that it's going to be a good match. It's going to be a heck of a game. It'll be a heck of a game on Friday night between North Farmington and Birmingham Brother Rice. But I just think in the end of the day, I just think home court prevails here. I just think North Farmington's on a mission. I think North Farmington's going to win that district, but it'll be very, very close. It would not surprise me if Birmingham Brother Rice wins that district, but I just think in the end of the day, I just think it's going to be North Farmington that pulls through into that district. Next district here, this is a long and crazy one. We're going to go from Class A to Class B. This district takes place at Detroit Collegiate Prep. This is where Ferndale's at. A lot of interesting names you're not going to even hear of because they're charter schools. You know what I mean? The district at Ferndale, of course, a lot of them are charter schools here. The first one for Ferndale, they play on Monday at 4:00 at home against Hamtramck Frontier International. I have no clue where that is. I think I've been hearing it's right by Detroit City Airport. I think Ferndale wins that game handily. And then, of course, got Detroit Central taking on Detroit Old Redford. I'm taking Detroit Old Redford in that one. And then Detroit Collegiate Prep, Warren Fitzgerald. Of course, Fitzgerald's not a very good basketball team this year. So you got to go with Detroit Collegiate Prep. And then I think Ferndale's going to knock off Detroit Henry Ford. I just think it's going to be Ferndale versus Detroit Old Redford in the district final because, I think Ferndale's played a much tougher competition. The OAA, they're playing a lot of Class A schools. I don't think a lot of these teams have played a lot of Class A schools as much as Ferndale has in the Gold this year. I just think personally that schedule has got them ready to go. I think Ferndale will move on in that district at Detroit Collegiate Prep. So we'll see what happens there in that one. Of course, we got 2 more districts to cover here. We got District 31 that's at Troy Athens. This is a good district here. I think this one's going to be an interesting district. You know, my favorite early is Troy Athens. You got Avondale in here, Pontiac's in here, Troy's in here, and Waterford Mott in here. All these teams have a good chance, have a shot at winning the district. I think the favorite's Troy Athens, but you got to watch out for Avondale, no doubt. When you look at the Yellow Jackets, this is a team. I think that this is a team. You know, they've had a heck of a year, of course. And they're also a young team as well. So I think that Avondale is going to definitely, and they got a nice draw too. So they got Waterford Kettering on Monday, which they should whoop pretty bad, and then they play Waterford Mott. You know, I think they'll beat Waterford Mott, and then I think they'll be in the district final against either Pontiac, Troy, or Troy Athens. Of course, you know, Troy Athens, of course, they beat Pontiac twice, and Troy twice. So there's going to be, I mean, like whoever went, and of course, you look at the Pontiac-Troy game, Pontiac beat Troy twice. And I think personally, when you look at that, it's going to be a heck of a game on Monday with Pontiac and Troy because, you know, the last time they played, Pontiac beat them at Pontiac, and it was at Cy Green Gym. It was a good game, you know what I mean? So I think it's going to be, what makes you think it's going to be something else? I mean, nothing different because it's going to be a great matchup, great coaching matchup between Ben Kelso and Gary Fralick. And then that winner's going to take on Troy Athens. Of course, Troy Athens, we know, won the white. They have 10 seniors on their team. So it'll be really nice to see. It's a good matchup. You know, if it's Troy Athens, you know, that gym's going to be packed. I mean, like, because everybody knows about that rivalry. You know, but Pontiac's got a really good case too. I mean, they got Justin Vallis, Robert McDonald, and of course you got Jalen Kelso, who's had an okay year. You know what I mean? But Pontiac's gonna be an interesting matchup, and I think whoever wins that's gonna play Avondale. Of course, it'll be a heck of a matchup. Avondale has proven they have went in the people's gyms and beat them. You can ask West Bloomfield that same question about Avondale as well. So, you know, I think Athens will win that district, but it would not surprise me if Avondale wins that district as well. It would not surprise me if Athens or Avondale moves on to go to Troy and play in that regional. In the last district, District 32, it's at Clarkston. You know, Clarkston's had a really good year. They're unbeaten. They sit 20-0 right now. And that winner, and of course, you look at Adams, you look at that game, you look at Clarkston's seeding. They got a really nice draw. They're either going to play Rochester or Oxford. Rochester went winless this year. They're 0-20. Oxford's had a really disappointing year. They were 12-8. 11-9. You know, it's kind of a disappointing year, especially with the expectations they had over there. You know, and there's been a lot of rumblings going on over there at Oxford, so probably won't go into much detail about that. You know, I know our friends at OCTV are going to keep us updated on the situation that's going on over there with Jamal Thomas. I mean, like, you know, we look at the favorite in that district's Clarkson because, like, you know, they're 20-0. You got Andrew Myers, Jonah Newblatt, Merrick Canada. And you got a very good freshman, Foster Lawyer. Now, I've asked myself, you know, Foster Lawyer is, I compare Foster Lawyer to Mackenzie Harbert. You know, I really do. Because you look at, I think this year he's benefiting from having a lot of experience around him. But in the next few years, you know, he's going to have to be the man to take over, you know, that team. You know, you got Taven Throgmorton coming back. But I just think right now that if everything goes right now, I think he's benefiting from having Andrew Myers, having Cole Truans, having Jonah Newblatt, having Merrick Canada, you know what I mean? Next year it'll be different, you know what I mean, for Clarkson a little bit, but I'm curious to see how he does in 2 years, you know what I mean, his junior year when he has to really carry that team. Another team to watch out for, you got a couple teams, you got Rochester Adams. They're a team I think that can really do some damage. I mean, like, they play Clarkson close. They have Spencer Wilson and Joey Zeleny. Another team to watch out for is Lake Orion. Of course, even though they're 4-16, finished year 4-16, they've won 3 of 4. So I think Lake Orion's a dangerous team here, and I also think Stony Creek is a good team as well. They play Adams, so it'll be an interesting test for Adams. And Oxford, of course, they got experience. I don't know if they're going to match up well with Clarkson though, but I'll probably give them a game. You know, they put up 79 points against them They put up 79 against Stony Creek, and then they put up 66 against West Bloomfield. But at the end of the day, I just think that Clarkson's going to be too much in that district because of the experience, the talent that they have over there with them. Okay, now everybody, when we come back, we're going to talk about girls, recapping the girls basketball districts, and also the regional outlook here on OAA Now.
We own a Habitat home.
I love working on my Habitat home.
Soy dueño de una casa de Habitat.
My neighbor is a Habitat homeowner.
Being a Habitat homeowner has changed our lives.
My mortgage payment for Habitat is less than what I pay for rent.
Habitat for Humanity of Oakland County currently has homes available with mortgage payments lower than most rent payments. If you or someone you know needs decent and affordable housing, call 248-338-1843 or visit our website at habitatoakland.org.
Welcome back to OAA Now. I'm Sammy Termina, blogger of the Dragon's Den, blogger of Inside the OAA, and one of the hosts between Terminas and ON TV. We're going to recap the girls basketball districts briefly before we talk about the girls basketball regionals. When I look at I'm going to recap each district by shockers and by also by the order that I have here in my blog here on the Inside the OAA. To recap, and we'll preview also the regionals. Then what chances do the two OA teams remaining Southfield Lathrop and Stony Creek have to win their regional? It's a slim chance for both teams when you look at it. First, we're going to talk District 26. I was at Wall Lake Northern. Lakeland ended up winning the championship over there. But one of the big upsets I was shocked about was West Bloomfield losing to Wall Lake Northern. Of course, I didn't see that coming. West Bloomfield. I knew Wall Lake Northern had a really good point guard, Courtney Callahan, but I didn't expect her to control tempo and dominate that game. I was shocked to see that. I was shocked that Harnish struggled, Stubbs struggled, Pierce struggled. And that's the senior lane team that they're going to lose, especially here because and in the end of the day, Wall Lake Central ended up being the team that went to the district final, where they were just completely obliterated by Lakeland. Of course, Lakeland now is heading into the regional up in Fenton. So I was kind of surprised to see that heading in there with West Bloomfield. I was very disappointed with West Bloomfield. Recapping at Warren Mott, of course, the district champ there is Warren Cousino. I kind of expected Warren Cousino to beat Hazel Park pretty handily. Hazel Park, this is a team that, they were very young this year. Of course, building a program over there. They'll have summer ball this year, which is a good thing. I think the girls do need that over there at Hazel Park. But it's a program to be built on the rise. We'll see what happens there. It didn't surprise me that Warren Cousino would win that district pretty handily. District 25, of course, I was at Birmingham Marion. Of course, kind of expected where I thought it would go. North Farmington knocked off Bloomfield Hills. That was one of the things I wasn't surprised with. Harrison beating Seaholm pretty badly. I expected that would happen there. They shut down Mackenzie Harbor. It's a very tough chore to shut down Mackenzie Harbor. It always has been. And then Birmingham Marion just whooped on North Farmington pretty bad, and they ended up beating Harrison pretty bad. So it was kind of what I expected. If Harrison would have had their huge quarterback, I think personally it would have made better sense maybe. It would have been I think it would have been a much closer game if Harrison had their star had both Amber Steffens and Kyla Rowland. Now they lose Kyla Rowland next year, but they still gain Amber Steffens and Kristen Nelson both coming back in there. So like I said, it wasn't a surprise where Marion ended up winning that district. And then you look at District 24 at Royal Oak. One of the biggest upset for me was shocking was Oak Park losing to Berkeley. I did not see that coming. I talked to Oak Park's girls basketball coach Diane Jones about she didn't see it coming. I know that they've had some trouble with consistency over there at Oak Park. I mean, like, you know, when you look at trying to build a program, it all starts at the middle school level. It's maybe even younger than that. You know what I mean? When you try to build a program, you know, you got to look at it from the younger levels, you know what I mean, the elementary levels, you know, and then you got to build it to the middle school levels. And I think Diane Jones over there at Oak Park is having a problem with that. You know, it's kind of hard, you know what I mean? It's not like Detroit, you know what I mean, where you get all the top talent, you know what I mean, to come over there, you know. You know, she's a very successful coach at Detroit Renaissance. You know, she can be successful here at Oak Park. I think she can be. You know, I mean, like, but when you look, I was kind of surprised at Oak Park. Here's a team that shared the blue with Royal Oak. You know, that I didn't expect Oak Park to lose to Berkeley like that. Of course, Berkeley whooped Groves pretty bad, and Lathrop had no problem with Royal Oak. Of course, Royal Oak had a really nice year too. I mean, like, they lost. I mean, they won the blue. This is like a stepping stone now. It would not surprise me if Royal Oak moves up to the white because that's the next building block for Brian Zapata. Even though I would seriously, with Royal Oak, I would look at their freshman team because I think that's where the most talent is right now when it comes to that program, into that situation. I just think that Royal Oak is built for the future right now. And then, of course, Royal Oak is really built for the future right now. I just think that if they can have they have three very good players. Two of them are 6-footers. If they move up to varsity, I think they'll be ready. They'll be all right. You know what I mean? You know, but neither than that, I just think Lathrop was too much in that game for the competition. You know, the Chargers, very experienced team. You got Antoinette Miller, Deja Church, Taj and Paige Bello. I mean, like, those girls are very, very talented. You know what I mean? Like, when you look at Sophia Lathrop, now next year, a lot of them are back, you know what I mean? But 2 years from now, it's going to be a nightmare for Lathrop next year. Unless, you know, they develop the JV team over there, you know, but it is what it is over there. I mean, like, but it wasn't a surprise that Lathrop ended up winning that district. You know, it kind of was not a surprise there. And recapping that, Detroit Renaissance, of course, Farmington's Mercy won that district. I was kind of surprised when they beat Detroit Renaissance, when Mercy beat Detroit Renaissance. You know, I wasn't surprised with Mumford, you know, but Mercy's role, I was surprised they knocked off Southfield. Southfield's played an easier schedule than Mercy or Detroit Renaissance, but Southfield finished the year a very good 18-2 team. But I was kind of surprised, you know, when Mercy played Detroit Mumford. I think in the end, you know, they have a very solid player over there at Mercy. But I don't know if they are ready to play a team like I didn't think Southfield was pretty much ready to. I thought, you know what I mean? It's just another stepping stone in the process with Southfield. I mean, like, with them, they're going to be solid next year in the blue. I expect them to move up to the blue next year and compete for the title with Birmingham Seaholm. So, like I said, it was a good year. Mercy's now moving on to that vaunted regional over at Southfield. We'll preview that in a little bit. District 31 at Waterford Kettering. That was a unique district. Of course, ended up being Kettering versus Mott, but I was surprised that Waterford Mott beat Troy by 11, 50-39. It was because they played, it was 54-51 early in the year. When you look at the situation there, I was kind of surprised that Waterford Mott, you know what I mean, just beat Troy like that. And, you know, and it was a tough way. You got to give Michelle Scar a lot of credit for shutting the Grecky twins down. You know, both Greckys are going to be, Troy loses 7 seniors, so that's going to be a tough swallow to pill for tough pill to swallow for Simon Botto for next year. Of course, Avondale knocked off Troy Athens. I kind of expected that, but I didn't think it would be that close. I know Athens led Avondale by 1 at halftime, and and then Aaliyah Mason ended up taking over that game. And what kind of bothered me was, with Avondale was they didn't have. I mean, like they have the size. They got Alyssa Smith, you got Addie Salatari in there. You got and then you have the Mason sisters. And they only put up 9 points against Waterford Kettering. Kettering's a good team. Let's not forget that. You know what I mean? They're a very good team. 7 seniors for Coach Scott Woodhall and his crew. But I didn't think Avondale. I mean, to only put up 9 points in a district semifinal, no matter how good the opponent is, it's not an excuse. And I think we'll see what Darius Whiteside does next year. He loses both Mason sisters. They got some guard trouble coming in, and they got some guard concerns heading into next year. But they do return Salatari and Smith, and also the small forward is going to be very interesting to look at if you're a Yellow Jacket. Kettering, of course, they're on a mission. They lost a very tough, emotional game at Plymouth Salem in double overtime. But it'll be an interesting matchup when you look at what Kettering has to do. You know what I mean? What Kettering has to do. Of course, they have that rematch with Stony Creek coming up. We'll talk about that in a couple of minutes. But Kettering ended up winning that title. You know what I mean? So it was a good win on their home court for Kettering. They ended up beating their rival Mott for a third time. So kind of was surprising there to see that. And then, of course, we're going to go next. We're going to talk about the District 32. It was at Orion. Stony Creek ended up winning that district. It was a tough district. Ended up beating Adams behind Maria Zandy's 31 points. Stony Creek beating Rochester out. It was 19-16 at the end during the middle part of the second quarter. Stony Creek ended up outscoring Rochester 33-9. I mean, it was kind of like, it wasn't a surprise there, you know what I mean, to see Stony Creek beat Rochester. But Rochester was a hot team. They won 8 of 9. They're very young. They got a lot coming back next year. Of course, Zoe Schultz will be a senior. You got Jenna Norgrove's going to be a sophomore. They do lose Shakira Hodges and Grace Mendoza. They do lose those 2 players, so it'll be hard to get. The question going to be is, can this Rochester team get some help inside? They did not. I mean, they need that next year for sure if they want to go the next step. Adams and Clarkson was a very good game. It was like back and forth runs there. I mean, Adams ended up winning 47-44 behind. The difference in that game, I thought, was Maggie Rogers, because Maggie Rogers is only a sophomore. She's going to be a good player for Adams. She's going to be a really good player for Adams. I mean, Davenport did everything she could do in that game. She had 21. Jameson, she only had 16. I mean, but Jameson Rogers each had 16 points each, so that ended up being a huge difference maker there. I mean, and then, of course, Davenport's going to have a really good career at Marquette. When you look at it, she's going to have a very good career over there at Marquette. So, and then, of course, Orion playing Adams, I thought personally it was a very emotional game there. I just think that in the end of the day, if it was a battle of adjustments, and Adams ended up winning that game early in the first quarter when Adams ended up taking advantage of Orion's defense. You know what I mean? They ended up taking advantage early on, and then when Orion went to the zone, I think it was a much closer game. So it was disappointing. Dragons do lose Hannah Hamay. I think it's going to be a big loss, but this Lake Orion team is going to have a bright future heading into next year. Stony Creek played Oxford the other night. I mean, played Oxford as well in the district semifinals. It was a very good game. I'm going to be honest with you, it was a very good game. Jessica Murphy had 20 points, but she only had 3 in the fourth quarter, which was shocking, of course. Sherilyn Bandis played all right in that game, also, but Maria Zandy played very well, and Emma Sobochinsky played very well in that game. That was the difference right there. When you look at Stony Creek, this is a team that's not deep. They're not, but they're going to be all right, even though they lose Zandy. And they beat Adams, of course, district final behind 31 points from Zandy. I mean, the rest of the team, had only – the rest of the team, of course, really struggled, in that game. But it was a huge win for Stony Creek to knock off Adams. Adams is still going to be very good next year, despite the fact they lose Raven Owusu and Amber Jameson next year. Jameson's going to go to Northwestern next year, going Big Ten. I was kind of surprised that when in the Big Ten tournament when Northwestern beat Rutgers, I didn't see that coming. You know what I mean? So, But Stony Creek moving on to that district over there, and then the last district we're going to recap is at Detroit Collegiate Prep with Ferndale. Ferndale scored 17 points. I think Warren Fitzgerald won the district there. But Ferndale, I was kind of disappointed with them. They played a tougher schedule than a lot of these teams, but they ended up getting whooped pretty bad by Warren Fitzgerald. Fitzgerald's a good team. They're a very good team. So we'll see what happens heading into next year. Of course, my girls, I updated my OA top 10. Of course, we're rolling in next year, but let's go to the regional first. Let's go to the regional first. There's going to be two interesting games coming up right there between Stony Creek and Waterford Kettering. They play at 6:00 at Sterling Heights Stevenson, and then you got Southfield, and then you're at Southfield. You got Southfield Lathrop playing against Birmingham Marion. It's a tough matchup for both teams. But let's go Stony Creek versus Kettering first. Of course, Stony Creek's a team, I think, personally, that can be I think Marie Zanni is going to give the defense department a lot of problems. I really do. Because of what she brings. If she doesn't take bad shots, Stony Creek, I think, could win that game. They got a shot. You know what I mean? But the key is they got to play very well. And Stony Creek only has 10 players, so that's a huge concern heading into that matchup. But when you look at the situation that Kettering's got, very experienced inside. This is a team that wants revenge after what happened last year or in the district final, in the district semifinal. This is going to be a game, I think, in my projection here, I just don't like Stony Creek in this game against Waterford Kettering at all because I think Kettering is on a mission. They had an emotional loss 2 weeks ago against Plymouth-Salem. They want to try to avenge it in the districts, in the regional. I think in the end of the day, and of course the other side, you got Romeo Port Huron Northern. I think Port Huron Northern's going to beat Romeo. But I think Waterford Kettering, if whoever wins this game, I think will move on to the state quarterfinals. I think whoever wins, you know what I mean? And Kettering's got a good shot. They got a very good shot. Stony Creek's got a good shot as well. I think whoever wins that game is going to make the state quarterfinals. Stony Creek's been saying they've had, I've respected Brad Crichton's team for years. I know that they've had great players in that program. You had Brittany Nelson. You've had Gabby Yerrick in that program. This is a program that's got to be well reckoned with. I don't think a lot of people outside the league know Stony Creek as much as I do. But this is a good team here. This is a good program that Brad Crichton runs. And I think Stony Creek, they got to play well if they want to beat Kettering. They got to play very, very well if they want to beat Kettering and win this game. Next regional match, we're going to talk about Southfield Lathrop against Birmingham Marion. Southfield Lathrop McDermott in the state, Birmingham Marion ranked number 1 in the state, 14th in the country. Last year was a joke. I'm going to be honest with you. Last year was a complete joke. It was a blowout. You know what I mean? It was a blowout. When you look at it here, in this matchup here, I think that the Chargers have learned from that matchup. They played a tougher schedule this year to get them prepared for this game. Birmingham Marion, of course, everybody knows the schedule they played. You know what I mean? I just think personally, when you look at the game, no doubt with Birmingham Marion, I just think right now this is the same team that played Lathrop. You know what I mean? And made them just look absolutely bad. I'm worried about Lathrop's depth here in this game with Birmingham Marion because I just think in the end of the day, I just think that Birmingham Marion will be too much for Southfield Lathrop. And it's an unfortunate situation here that these two top teams in the state have got to play each other in the regional semifinals because, it is what it is. Southfield Lathrop's got a lot coming back next year. I'm not sure how much Birmingham Marion loses. I know that the Thomas sisters are going to be coming back next year for sure. Jada Robinson's a good player. Kara Helensky, I know she's gone. But for Coach Mary Cicerone, this may be one of her best teams she's had. Now, a lot of people are going to say about last year's team with Birmingham Marion, they were a young team. Let's not forget that. And this team won the state title last year at the Breslin Center. So it would not surprise me if Birmingham Marion wins this regional, handily. And we'll see what happens heading into the year. Of course, when we come back here, we're going to talk about more girls basketball, and of course my early spring outlook heading into the year here on OA Now.
Hey kids, this is your old pal the Easter Bunny inviting you to hop on over to the Orient Center on Saturday, March 21st for the 2015 Bunny Bop. Bring a basket to hunt for eggs filled with candy and prizes and create fun craft projects. And of course, I'll be there for special photo opportunities. The family-friendly fun starts at 10 a.m. Pre-registration is required because space is limited. For more information, visit orienttownship.org or call 248-391-0304, extension 305. Hope to see you there.
Welcome back to OA Now. Sammy Termina, blogger of the Dragon's Den, blogger of Inside the OAA, and one of the hosts between Terminas and O1 TV. Of course, we'd like to welcome Oxford Community Television to OA Now. I'd like to thank our good friends in Oxford. Of course, welcome aboard. Thanks for having me to produce for you guys in the Oxford community. Also along with the Lake Orion community as well. Speaking of that, of course, we're going to recap next season, of course, for girls basketball. You look at next year. Of course, everybody knows Sophie Lathrop Harrison's going to be very good next year. When you look at the teams, besides those two teams, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not sure how the realignment's gonna go. The only one I know for sure is probably going to be Sophie. It's going to be probably moving up the division. But I think next year, when you look at the teams, I think Southfield, they're going to be loaded next year. They got Storm Lake Madison, Crystal Lynn Defoe coming back. They have a very good freshman who has played very, very well this year. Yeah, I think she's going to make the next step next year. Jamie Gentz is going to have a good team next year at Southfield, so I expect them to do that. And then, of course, you can look at some teams around the area. It would not surprise me with Oxford next year. Because they could be all right. You know what I mean? They could be all right. They still going to have some point guard concerns. I think they got a very good they had a good JV guard. Got to remember her name. It kind of rings a bell, because I heard about her last year, but this year. I mean, but then you have Abigail Bukolich, I think is going to need to step up. Madeline Morris is probably she's a 3-point shooter. She's a deadly 3-point shooter. And then, of course, you got the question could be the inside game. Of course, you lose 3 very good players. You lose Sky Donaldson, Jessica Murphy. Jessica Murphy's going to Wayne State next year. And you lose Sherilyn Bandis. Of course, that's going to be very tough to replace when you look at what Oxford's going to have. They got some talent. There's no doubt. I think Oxford will be okay heading into next year. Not a lot. There's not... If I'm in Oxford right now, I'm not panicking just yet. You know what I mean? Clarkson, of course, they lose Davenport. You got Kayla Lugenbach coming back. I think Clarkson's going to be all right heading into next year. The questions, you got Kayla Russell also coming back as well. The question's going to be, who's going to be the guards over there at Clarkson? You know what I mean? I know they got Molly Nicholson, who's a JV player over there. I think she's going to team with Lugenbach and probably form an inside 1-2, I think, personally, for Tim Waslick. I know West Bloomfield's going to have 3 freshmen coming up from the middle schools. Of course, but the question's going to be, will they get there? That's going to be the question everybody's going to look at. Of course, and then you look at Bloomfield Hills, you know what I mean? Next year, you lose Amanda Moss. You lose Kathleen. You lose Diana Hosley. But you return Kathleen Prena. You have a very good JV player in Amani Wright, who played varsity early in the year, but ended up going back down to JV. She's a very good penetrator. Not sure about her 3-point shooting ability, but she's a very good penetrator to go along with. You got Victor Franklin, you got Amanda Sape. I think Bloomfield Hills will be all right heading into the they'll be all right for Jeff Rubin. I think the question's going to be we'll see what happens. They were a young team this year, but they'll be all right. You know what I mean? They'll be all right heading into next year. When you look at Troy, they could struggle next year. You still got Jordan Lafayette coming back. She's a good player. The the question is going to be is can Troy's guards develop heading into next year? Of course, at Troy Athens, you lose Casey Joslin, but you do return Michelle Javalis, who's a very good guard over there at Troy Athens. And then of course Hazel Park's gonna add another year, getting better. You know what I mean? I think Hazel Park they'll be better than people think. I also think the team to look, I think that Lake Orion's going to be a very interesting team to look at next year. Of course, you look at the Dragons, they have you got a lot of girls returning. They do lose Hannah Hamay, who's going to be a huge loss. Sarah Voss, a huge loss. Blair Stewart's a huge loss. The question for this Dragon team is, do they have a power forward to replace, what Blair Stewart gives you? Delaney Hahn, you know what I mean? She'll be all right. You know what I mean? You got Evelyn Wishmeyer and Lauren Thorne coming back. I think the key for this team is they got to find that shooter. They got to find the balance of this team. You got Jordan Marquis. I think Marquis is going to have to do a lot more her junior campaign to not only handle the pressure but also handle the stress. What Coach Steve Roberts is going to bring next year, of course, and also you're going to have a deep bench as well. So we don't know what the Dragons' state of mind is going to be. We'll probably talk about that at the Lake Orion girls basketball preview show coming up. So we'll see. We'll probably do that next November. So like I said, we'll see what happens coming into the process there. But I still think right now the top teams, my top 5 teams right now for next year are Lathrop 1, Harrison 2, 3. I would put Lake Orion on there number 3. Early. It's really, really early. But number 4 would be Adams 3, Lake Orion 4, Stony Creek 5. You know what I mean? Even though Stony Creek does lose Maria Zandy, it's still going to be a solid team. So that's my top 5 heading into the early top 5 for next year in the girls basketball season. Now let's go into a little brighter thing. We got spring coming up. Of course, spring practice opened up today for all sports. I did my early season rankings. You can take a look at them on my Inside the OAA blog. Of course, teams I'm curious to see heading into the year. Of course, I'm a track guy. Oak Park, this is a team that won the state title in girls last year. I still think, they're in a very soft division. I really do think that. There's not, in league play, there's probably not going to be a lot of teams they're going to touch Oak Park this year. They could be in line for a repeat again. I know their coach is an AAU type of coach. You know what I mean? So like I said, I think Clarkston 2, Orion 3 make a lot of sense. Rochester's got a very good shot team coming back. Adams is always good. Seaholm's got a good distance crew. Southfield, you know what I mean? Oxford will be all right. And then Stony Creek, you know what I mean? It's a team to keep an eye on. Teams keep an eye on heading into the season. And, of course, in the boys, Oak Park got them number 1. Orion number 2. Clarkson number 3. West Bloomfield always solid at sprints. Question's going to be the distance. Southfield, they're always solid in sprints. Troy's going to be good this year. Avondale had a nice year last year. They should be, they're going to be down a little bit, but I think expect them to improve during the year as the year goes on. Booby Hills 8, Seaholm 9. Oxford, of course, very strong in the throws this year. They got Connor Bandel back. They got a couple good, it'll be good. It'll be interesting when you look at with Oxford this year, especially with Connor Bandel. Would not surprise me if he tries to go for 60 this year. 'Cause I know he's been training a lot this year to get that, try to get that record over at Oxford. I know the record over there is probably 60 feet over there in Wildcat country. Girls soccer, of course, you got to go with the Rochester schools 1, 2, 3, Troy schools 4, 5, Stony Creek number 1, Adams 2, Rochester 3, Athens 4, Troy 5, Orion 6. Hazel Park had a really nice year last year. I got them 7, Royal Oak 8, Seaholm 9, Avondale 10. You know what I mean? That's my early rankings. Now, they could change, okay? Baseball, I had a tough decision to make with some of these teams because, Clarkson's going to be solid. Oxford's going to be solid. Adams will be solid. It's just a tough league to decide, I'm going Orion first because of the they're going to be all right this year. I know a lot of people are going to say Orion's going to be down after losing their top pitchers. I mean, like their and also their offense is an issue. Clarkson, they had a senior lane team, but they do have DJ Zazula coming back. Of course, Zazula played very well. Everybody knows about DJ Zazula, what he played in the state championship game over at with Clarkson. Of course, he won 2 state football titles. Adams, very good team. Stony Creek, of course, they had a good team last year, but they're going to be a little bit down, but they're still going to be solid when you look at the Cougars. West Bloomfield 5, of course, they're solid. North Farmington's still going to be solid as well. A team to watch out for, in my opinion, is Rochester because they return a lot of experience. Troy Athens, same thing. They return a lot of experience. Farmington, a little bit young, but I expect them to be competitive this year in that Vaughn and White division. So I expect, it'll be a good year, I think, for baseball. And then, of course, I don't have lacrosse yet, you know what I mean? So we'll go over lacrosse probably some other day. Of course, in the last sport, we're going to talk about softball. When you look at softball, it's going to be an interesting year. I think in the red, you got Lake Orion and Clarkson. I think are the 2 top teams in that division because Lake Orion does return a junior pitcher in Sierra Gonzalez, who's a very good pitcher. Clarkson's got 2 senior pitchers in them, Madeline Madej and Candace Kitchen. They're both good. They're both solid players. You got North Farmington's bringing a lot of experience back. Of course, Adams, everyone knows about Francis Wojcik. But the team I'm curious to see that I think could do some damage this year is Oxford. Jessie Granger, of course, we know she was a great Troy standout, great girl, great pitcher at Oakland University. I mean, you got Sky Donaldson, Sherilyn Bandis, playing also. And this is a team I think is going to be a very, very dangerous team to watch for this year. I'm very high on Oxford. I think that they could be. I think I could have ranked them as high as 3. But Troy's got a very good coach in Tom Callahan, who and of course it's Jessie Granger's old school. So I think Oxford's gonna be a team to watch this year. Also Adams as well because Francis Wojcik, their coach there. I think he's gonna be solid there. Of course you got Troy Athens, even though they lost a lot of talent last year. They still got a couple good pitchers there. They got a young team there. Stony Creek returns a lot of experience. Another team I'm curious to watch is Rochester because here was a team last year that was very, very young when you look at Big Blue. I mean, they took their lumps. I think now they got some experience. They know how it's like to play the varsity atmosphere. I think Rochester could surprise some people this year. And I got Groves at number 9, So, like I said, this is going to be an interesting team. Of course, Farmington's a team to watch for as well. I mean, it'll be an interesting team to watch, interesting season to watch coming up this spring. So, like I said, we'll see what happens. Of course, I'll be at some meets, you know what I mean? So once again, fans, I'm going to be heading on out. Wishing everybody the best of luck in spring sports. Also wishing everybody the best of luck in boys basketball districts. Girls basketball regionals, of course, Stony Creek and Southfield, Lathrop. All right, and everybody, and I'm Sammy Termina. I'm signing out. Good night, and God bless all.
OAA Now is produced at Orion Neighborhood Television, Lake Orion's community media outlet. To learn more about ONTV, visit our website at www.orionontv.org or call us at 248-393-1060.